Eagles. Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Victory Monday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports after the Philadelphia Eagles clinched the NFC East with a 41-7 beatdown of the Dallas Cowboys, sweeping them for the first time since 2011. Johnny Mack, how you doing in this Monday morning, brother?
Doing well. Some necessary business taken care of by the Philadelphia Eagles. 20th consecutive year, by the way. New NFC East champion from the year prior. So that's something to worry about for all the Warriors early next season because it's the odds say you're probably not going to win it twice in a row. But bad news, locked into the number. Not that that's bad news. Locked into the number 2 seed, cannot get that number 1 seed. So Minnesota beating Green Bay put that pipe dream out the window. So Minnesota at Detroit, week 18, that will decide the number 1 seed in the NFC. Eagles will be number 2. So nothing to play for next week. And I know we're going to have the question. I think the question was already answered by the way the Eagles handled it. So
You mean at the end of the game?
Yes. I think it was pretty clear what went on, and if the record was going to be in play, no matter what, in week 18, they would have let Saquon finish the game, but they didn't. They got to 2,000 yards. He tapped out. Lane Johnson probably had the best quote, which was, I'll pull it up. I don't have it in front of me, but basically, yeah, Lane might have let the cat out of his bag, I would say, for what the Eagles plan on doing. Now, at the time, remember, there was still a chance that they could get the number 1 seed, and if that opportunity was there, they were going to play. They were going to play the game, and Saquon would probably get the record, even better against his own old team, which makes it, I think, even more of a storyline for a lot of people. But for the Eagles, especially, remember what they went through last year. And I know people write it off because, they finished so poorly and, they were going to collapse anyway. They were going to lose anyway. Yeah, I mean, losing A.J. Brown in week 18. And by the way, that wasn't it. They lost Reed Blankenship, who didn't play. They lost Sidney Brown, who didn't play. And at the time, Sidney was a bigger part of the puzzle. Remember, they didn't have C.J. Gardner-Johnson last year. So they were down to their, no Reed Blankenship, no Sidney Brown. You had to play Avonte Maddox at safety. All because of week 18. Now, I'll be the first one to say you can't legislate injuries. I believe that. You also shouldn't tempt fate. And how's everybody going to feel if in a meaningless game chasing, I don't want to say meaningless record, but in the big picture, from the Eagles' perspective, they got bigger goals, which Nick's hinted at his post-game press conference.
I see both sides of this argument, John. I see the making history. I see, do you want Jalen Hurts on the bench for 3 straight weeks going into the playoffs? I think this is a historic feat that you're going to try to do something that's never been done in the NFL. You're trying to surpass a record that's lived for 40 years. I see both sides of it, but I more side with you of get ready for the playoffs, get ready to gear up and go, because that's the main goal. But, John, as someone pointed out to me on social media last night, the players care more about this stuff than fans do. Fans want the ultimate goal, and that's the Super Bowl. Players play for accolades. Players play for records. Players play for statistics ultimately, and they care. So I think if they have something to say, you think they would want to do it?
That's interesting because I see it the exact opposite. I see it the exact opposite. Like, I think.
Well, that's not really true, John.
I think the only people who care about this record are, and not all fans, but certain fans. Now, does that mean Saquon wouldn't want it? Sure, he'd want it. Of course,
John,
he
Eric Dickerson's talking about his record 40 years later. Players
Of
care.
course, of course, he would want it. But Saquon also understands the bigger picture. And again, if this team were 9-8, yeah, they're going for it. He understands the bigger picture. He's the first in line, And I got Lane's quote. Eric Dickerson's record was 16 games. So if it was 17 games, it would make sense anyway, which I don't know what he was trying to say there. But Eric Dickerson is who he is. Saquon is who he is. We just wanted to get 2,000. We're fine with that. Better safe than sorry. I think Lane let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah, they're most likely going to sit him. And I have no issue either way. I would understand either way. I think with the Giants, it would be a fun thing to set up. But the team has bigger goals, and ultimately we'll go with that. John, let's talk about that game last night, man. You sweep the Cowboys, you blow them out in 2 games this year, 75-13 across 2 games for the Dallas Cowboys versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Kenny Pickett looked pretty good. Tanner McKee looked pretty good. Johnny Mack and the defense creates 4 turnovers. What stuck out to you a day removed now from that big game yesterday?
Boy, the Cowboys stink. I know that there was one viral clip of an Eagles fan giving Jerry Jones the business and saying, keep doing what you're doing. Prodding him, which was pretty cool from that perspective. The Dallas Cowboys are an absolute abject mess. Now, part of it, obviously they lost a ton of talent to injury, and that happens. If Dak Prescott's out there, if Zach Martin's out there, if CeeDee Lamb's out there, if DeMarcus Lawrence is out there, Micah Parsons was healthy for the whole season, yada, 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 maybe they're fighting for the playoffs, but that's the NFL. Some years you have attrition, some years you don't. The team they rolled out yesterday was not good, and the Eagles took advantage of it. And even with backup quarterbacks, they dominated the game. A little bit of life early from Dallas, and then C.J. Gardner kind of snubbed it out with the pick 6 right away. So, and this Cowboys team is just not equipped to play from behind, not near. And it's funny to say that about the Cowboys because they've been so explosive over recent years. But the group that was out there yesterday, I mean, Rico Dowdle's their biggest playmaker. You could argue Cavante Turpin, but as I said, he's a manufactured touch guy on offense. It's not like you can get him the ball 10 times like you can do with CeeDee Lamb. So they were very limited. We said that all week coming into the game, very limited offensively, and that bode well for the Eagles. I didn't think they'd be, win the game. You never think a game's going to be 41-7 with backup quarterbacks, and give Kenny Pickett credit, man. The dude's playing through a broken rib. He's taking pain injections to get out there. He's got the team, it was a joke. When the Eagles list these injuries, they'll say questionable to return. Well, you knew he wasn't returning, even if he could, because the game was over. So why risk bait? Then Tanner McKee, so that got people excited. You told me yesterday. Came in, he got his first touchdown pass, 2 touchdown passes in 4 throws?
4 throws, yep.
So, the route was on. The Cowboys gave up, tapped out, whatever you want to call it. And that always makes Eagles fans happy, beating the Cowboys like a rented mule. Is basically
Tanner McKee had the fans fired up. Johnny Mac, Tanner Brady, they're calling him Tanner Manning.
Yeah, I don't think the context is there. As the Cowboys weren't exactly rolling out the 1927 Yankees or the Roger Staubach Cowboys. They had tapped out by the time. But nice job for Tanner, and I said AJ had the best arm on the field yesterday. no matter the quarterback.
Launch that sucker.
He launched that thing, his baseball background, and he was able to get it back. Forgot it was Tanner's first touchdown pass. By the way, the pass that AJ caught that wasn't a touchdown, that's one of the great. You had two of the best
That was Tanner's
receptions.
only incompletion
You had two of the best receptions I've ever seen in the NFL yesterday. Neither of them counted. I don't know if people saw the late game with Minnesota. Jefferson made a one-handed catch that got called back, and then AJ's one-handed catch, and they both didn't count. But yeah, that was probably his most impressive catch. But his arm strength is pretty impressive, and they were able to get the football back. So all ends well, and you'll probably get Tanner McKee this week, so everybody can get excited by that. Week 18, Tanner McKee Bowl.
Pretty funny stuff. All the people commenting about Tanner McKee. Now they played well though. Tanner McKee had some good balls. It was good to see that from him making some good throws out there to AJ Brown. As I mentioned, the one incompletion he had was that crazy catch. How about that catch, John? It literally stuck his hand like glue, dude. It didn't move when it hit his hand.
Yeah, two of them. Like I said, the other one was even better. But
yeah.
These guys, I don't know what it is with these gloves, but they might want to. It's too easy for some of these guys. The tackified gloves.
Yeah. Saquon Barkley, John, had a big game, 160 plus yards. He's up now over 2,000. We will be giving away a Saquon Barkley jersey. So for those who are in the chat and who are not a member, get your memberships in. Jersey Dude, thanks for becoming a member. We will do the Saquon Barkley jersey giveaway. And maybe, will it be the last one of the year? Will he go out there and try and set the record? John thinks he will not get out there. We will see what they end up doing, but it could be the last one until the playoffs, not of the year, until the playoffs. I will be doing the giveaways all through the playoffs as well. So we'll see what he does, but he breaks 2K yards, John. What a season for Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, and he only had 40 yards at halftime.
I know, man. He was averaging like 3 yards a carry.
Yeah, so it was all the second half, and it was pretty much Saquon left, Saquon right. It was obvious what they were trying to do. A bunch of guys said it after the game. They were very aware. Evidently, that was the team goal, to get to 2,016 games. And they're very aware of what the number was. And as soon as he got it, Nick took him off the field. And again, I think that foreshadows, because if they're going for the record now, you might as well. The Cowboys had tapped out by that point, like I said.
Yeah.
You just would have kept them on the field and kept adding yards, and it would have been easy to do this week. Not that it wouldn't be easy to get 101 against the New York Giants, but I think they clearly foreshadowed it. Now, if Green Bay would have beaten Minnesota, changes, the complexion a little bit, then it becomes more of a difficult decision for Nick Sirianni. Because it would still be unlikely that they would get the number one seed, but it still might have been alive in a sense. And then it becomes more difficult, because then you can talk yourself into some things. Now I think it's pretty easy for them. I think everybody's on board, and I don't think it'll be much of an issue. Although I do agree with you that I think in a lot of ways the offensive line wanted this record even more than Saquon. Not that Saquon didn't want it, but they wanted to get it. But as Lane kind of said, I think that's the thought process.
Well, that's what I meant when I said, but I think players care about accolades, not in a negative. I didn't mean it in a negative way, but more so that, when you hang your cleats up, John, what you did during the game is ultimately how your career is defined, talked about, and discussed throughout the history of the game. And I think many of those players like those accolades, and I don't have a problem with that at all. That's what they're paid.
Well, I don't think anybody dislikes accolades. I mean, when this all started, Jordan was the one who kind of told me he didn't care about all pros or Pro Bowls. Jordan Mailata, he does, but from a standpoint of what would be more meaningful to him. He said the rushing record because of the historic nature of it. But again, as Lane would point out, you have all the holes being poked, 17 games, not 16 games, and all that stuff. And again, if it were even a Washington level team or a 7 seed level team, it's different. This is a legitimate Super Bowl contender.
Yeah.
So it's different. It's different.
Well, where are you on the Jalen Hurts element of it? Because I got to be honest with you, I don't love the idea of 3 weeks off going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't care. What is playing against the New York Giants going to do for Jalen Hurts?
Keeps the rust off, John. I mean, look, you don't do shows for a couple of days, you come back, it feels a little different. That's anything in life. I mean, he hasn't played for 3 weeks going into the playoffs. I think that's pretty significant time.
Yeah, I he's played a lot of football. I don't worry about that even. That doesn't even enter my mind. No, I mean, same as ever. Veteran players. I mean, we're talking about Shaq Barrett last week, and he's going back to Tampa Bay. Hasn't played all season. Now, is he going to be up to speed? No, because he hasn't played all season. But am I worried about the rut? That guy's played a ton of football. If he's in shape, he can help him. Yeah, for a guy who's been playing all season, he's played a lot. Playing the New York Giants would do nothing for Jalen Hurts. Nothing.
All right, if they start sluggish in the playoff,
well, they start sluggish every game anyway. I mean, they start sluggish every game anyway. That to me has nothing to do with it.
All right.
Now, if he plays poorly the entire game, I'm sure we'll revisit that, and but I still won't tie it to that. If he plays poorly, it's probably because he plays poorly. In a lot of ways, I mentioned there's a little bit of a silver lining to this because I think the finger is the bigger issue, and you allow that to calm down a little bit, and then maybe your ball handling and all that is back to not 100%, but as close to 100% as possible. So if anything, I looked at that as a bit of a silver lining that, and when it comes to the record and things like that, although Jalen's a big part of it because of the +1 nature, he makes it easier on Saquon Barkley. The opponents were going to make it easy on Saquon Barkley no matter what. So, and that's kind of borne out as well. But yeah, Jalen. Take the week off.
All right, nearly a month off it'll be for Jalen Hurts. Let's hope that the rust doesn't creep in. Many seem to think that that won't be a problem. I don't know. 3 weeks off from anything is a lot of time.
Well, they never start out well. That part doesn't. Oh, I've just been alerted that I won my wife's football pool again for a record fifth time this year.
Oh my gosh. John, you're running circles around your wife's office. Unbelievable. John, last thing I want to talk to you about, and we'll get to Jeff Kerr this morning. We have Chris Franklin in hour number 2. Plenty to talk about here on the show. I appreciate each and every one of you guys for being here. Don't forget to hit that like button for us. NFC East champions, the Philadelphia Eagles, they clinched that yesterday. John, people aren't going to like when I say this, but right now, if it ended today, the Philadelphia Eagles are locked in as the number 2 seed, and they would end up having to face the Green Bay Packers in round 1 in the wild card. To me, that's a bad draw. That is a bad draw. That is more of a divisional opponent, in my opinion. That's a tough game. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm scared of them. I think the Eagles can beat any team. But to get that team potentially in the first round, I think that's a tough draw for the Eagles.
Yeah, well, I agree because it's that type of year in the NFC. Although the Eagles should beat them, I do think it's a tough draw. But what wouldn't be a tough draw?
The Commanders. I'd feel much better about the Commanders.
Well, so would I. But I had a lot of people say, "Oh, then you get into it's hard to play a team 3 times."
See, that I don't buy. I don't buy the 3-time thing or the 3-game thing.
Well, I don't buy it either. The Eagles should win the game. I mean, Green Bay, I saw the end of that game and they came back again. They're just a dumb team. They're just a dumb team. Um, they the first time they played Minnesota, I think they were down 28-0 and they came back. And this time they were down 27-10 and they came and they didn't throw the ball until there's 6 minutes left in the game. And then they're boop, boop, boop right down the field. It's like, what are you doing, Matt LaFleur? Yeah, wake up. You know, they don't play the right way. They don't. So they're very talented. So I get it from that standpoint. But the problem in the NFC is, you know, you're going to have a 5 seed that wins probably 14 games,
which is crazy.
And you're going to have a 7 seed that probably wins 11 games. Well, not probably, because but so that's where we are. I mean, there's good teams, and to win in the playoffs, you're going to have to beat good teams. You know, if Tampa Bay was in, you know, they're obviously, if they get in, they're going to win the division most likely. So they won't be in the conversation, but people were worried about Tampa Bay because of the history against Tampa Bay.
Right.
You talk yourself into stuff. Now, Minnesota won 14 games. Detroit, you know, maybe 15, both of them, 14 or 15 for each of them. There's a bunch of good teams. So if you go to where you want to go, you're going to have to beat a bunch of good teams. And if it starts with Green Bay, it starts with Green Bay.
Who would you prefer to play, John, in that first round? If you had to pick, Commanders, Packers.
Well, Commanders. I mean, because I lean towards talent first, and I go back to last year when the Packers beat the you-know-what off the Cowboys, who were a good team at the time, on the road, because they're gifted, and if they play well on a given Sunday, they can beat anybody. But I also think they're dumb. I think Washington's better coached. I think Washington is a more sound team. But yeah, I always lean towards talent, and they have so many playmakers, Green Bay. So yeah, I'd rather play Washington.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
But don't underestimate the dumbness of that team, because that can affect them.
No doubt. Tan Tebow says, "Get a dog, Zander." Hey, dumbass. That's for you to be like, hey, I'm not afraid of anybody. Great. If you want to look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself that, that's great. My job is to analyze all the game and the perspectives and the scenarios that can happen, Tan Tebow. I'd rather play the Washington Commanders. So I have a dog, and I'm good on that front, and I'm not scared of the Packers. Sit back and enjoy the show, my friend. I'll handle the content. Thank you very much. Here we go. Let's got a couple super chats here, Johnny Mac. JP Della Rosa says, Super Bowl 59 is on February 9th. Also, Barkley and DeJean's birthday, 26 plus 33 equals 59. Now we're going tinfoil hat here.
Oh, numerology.
Yeah.
I'm not a superstitious guy, JP.
No, me neither.
I don't believe in any of that bullshit. So if they play well, they'll get to the Super Bowl. If they don't, they probably won't. They have a chance.
I'm not buying that piece of numerology right there at all.
Yeah, they have a chance. I mean, they're a good team, but there's a bunch of good teams in the NFC. I do think if the Eagles play well and stay healthy, Week 18, I think they're in the conversation for being the best team because of the attrition to Detroit, because of the cornerbacks of Minnesota. I think styles make fights. So if you want to go all the way down the road, you know, how do the Eagles beat Minnesota? Well, they take advantage of the cornerbacks. How did the Eagles beat Detroit? Well, they take advantage of all the attrition on the defense. So they have a chance, but it will have nothing to do with the date of the Super Bowl or the birthdays of Saquon Barkley.
That I agree with. Josh Herman checks in. He says Super Bowl wins are a record too. If he gets the rushing record and loses in the postseason, it will be more disappointing than losing the record and winning the Super Bowl.
Oh, no question. I mean, you know, if this team doesn't win the Super Bowl, people are going to be beside themselves. And if this team doesn't win the Super Bowl because Saquon Barkley turns his ankle Week 18 chasing a record, again, I don't like thinking that way. You can't legislate injuries. If they had a 10% chance to get the number 1 seed, I would say play. They, you know, I was sitting next to Bob Brooker over in the press box yesterday, and we're looking at each other. For those who don't know, Saquon Barkley had his season high in carries yesterday. They kept feeding him the ball to get to 2,000, and we're looking at each other. Are they really doing this? Like, I thought he should have been pulled yesterday. I mean, so, and you can't. Guys have gotten hurt in practice this year. AJ Brown got hurt in practice, for people that forget, early in the season. Ben Van Sumeren, just a special teams player people forget. He had a season-ending injury in practice. You can get hurt anywhere in this league, but the odds are a lot greater, and Saquon doesn't do much of practice on top of that.
Yeah.
The odds are a lot greater that if he doesn't play, he's going to be completely healthy. You can't guarantee that if he does play, and it's a meaningless game.
You can't guarantee it either way, but the odds are a lot better if he does not play. I understand that, but I mean, I don't know. There is a part of me that's like, you can get hurt running onto the field like you saw last year.
Well, yeah. Well, it's a game of odds.
Like that, they're professionals. Let them go out there and set the record. But I do understand the other side. If you can manage it, I understand that. Josh Herman follows up and he says, Packers can't win big games. They've lost all season. That's correct. Their 5 losses are 2 to Detroit, 2 to, I guess, the Vikings now. The Vikings now beat them twice, and 1 of the Eagles.
Yeah, that they've lost to good teams. I don't know if they've lost big games. I don't know if regular. Yeah, again, the definition of big games changes with people's. I would always joke that, Eagles fans with Andy Reid can't win a big game. He's in 19 championship games. He's in Super Bowls. Can't win a big game. So it's not the big game until you lose a game. Then it's a big game.
Well, that's fair. Yeah, I think at this point, though, the Packers' biggest games have obviously been those ones of the year. You're right. If they get to the NFC title game, that's the real big game. I understand what you're saying.
So, similar to last year, they got hot at the right time. They generally play well down the stretch. They came back in that game. If you watch the fourth quarter of that game, you probably don't want to do that, because then you'll be really scared. Zander might have to buy another dog if you watch the fourth quarter of that game, because they just went right down the fucking field. But luckily, that's the way they play. And that's why they've lost games before, and they play around. And, then when it becomes a sense of urgency, then they tap into their playmakers. So, who's to say they're not going to play that way against the Eagles? Fall behind, and maybe you're holding on for dear life, but so what? You hold on for dear life.
Yeah, it's true. We'll see how it all plays out. Rich Nutt checks in with a member for 4 months. Thank you, guys. All of our members will be doing a member giveaway with the Saquon Barkley jersey, and Bombay Trippy upgraded. Thank you, Bombay. Appreciate that, brother. Rich Nutt says, I want both, the record and the Super Bowl. One doesn't preclude the other. How many Super Bowl chances will you have in 40 years? Who knows? No risk, no reward. That's fair.
And you can't, it's the litmus test. Are you going to give the team shit if he sprains his ankle and he's unable to play in the first round of the playoffs and they lose? I think you're going to give him shit.
I think it's fair to make somebody ask that question when they say, I want him to play. All right. Yeah. If he plays, are you fine with that? All right. I think that's a fair question. Good stuff there, Johnny Mack. We got Jeff Kerr. I see my man Jeff in the green room. Had a little connection issue. Now he's in, looking good. Jeff, we're going to get to you in a second. I appreciate you, brother. Thanks everybody for watching this morning. Don't forget to hit that like button. The Philadelphia Eagles are NFC East champs. They have won 13 games now this year. They're 13-3. And they have secured the number 2 seed in the NFC. So now the sights have shifted, and we will focus on the playoffs. One more game, Week 18 game versus the New York Giants to play, and that might be that might be another backup bowl for the Philadelphia Eagles. So we will see about that. Let's get to our commercial break. Before I do that, I want to tell you guys about the great people at BetUS. Go check them out. You can see the promo code I put on your screen. It's YouTube 150. Gives you 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit. And you get 125% on your second and third deposit, all up to $2,000. So deposit less and bet with more at betus.com. That's betus.com.pa. Go check them out. Tell them Birds 365 sent you and use that promo code. We'll be back in 3 minutes, everybody, on Birds 365.
Ignite your nights with free live entertainment daily, only at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia's Center Bar. 7 days a week, enjoy some of the region's top party bands, performers, and DJs as they take the stage in the heart of the casino action. Great cocktails, live music, and lively moments. It's all happening at Center Bar at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia. Visit livecasinophilly.com for more details and the complete list of upcoming events. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong as the #1 health insurer in the region. No IBX is always looking out for you.
We noticed that there was mold creeping into our basement about a year and a half ago, and wanted to make sure that we were getting rid of the problem permanently. We actually reached out to several different contractors to get it resolved, and actually 2 of them recommended DryTech to us as a long-term solution. Other than the noise factor, we wouldn't even know that there was work being done on the basement level. It's really been a clean process for us.
Score and save this football season on your car insurance. Before the next game, save up to 40% on your auto insurance policy. That's right, 40% savings. Call an audible this season and contact the Del Val Insurance Group. They're an advocate for you, not an insurance company. That means they'll get you the right coverage and save you up to 40%. Call managing partners Fran or Jim of Del Val Insurance, 215-354-0122, or score and save at dvigi.com. dvigi.com.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Victory Monday edition of Birds 365. Philadelphia Eagles clinched the NFC East. They clinched the #2 seed in the NFC, and Saquon Barkley breaks over 2,000 yards for the season. Only the 9th player in NFL history to do it. We're joined now by Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports. Jeff, welcome to the show, man. How you doing on this Monday morning?
Eagles took care of business against the bad football team that people think were, well, at least people in Dallas thought they were better. So it is what it is.
Not a very good team, yeah. But give the Eagles credit. Give Kenny Pickett credit as a backup quarterback. Tanner McKee, the Mormon missile, as Jordan Mailata described him.
The Mormon missile? Is that what Mailata called him?
Yeah. So how excited are you all? Before we know what the lead story is, and I'll get Jeff's thought on that, but how excited are you about the Mormon missile and his ability long-term to be the backup quarterback, even though everybody hates the guy playing with broken ribs. I can't figure out the Kenny Pickett hate, Jeff.
I don't either. You know, I'll tweet any Kenny Pickett stat, and they'll be like, well, Tanner McKee was better. I'm like, look, I talked to Tanner McKee probably just as much as anybody on this football team, and I was ecstatic for him throwing a touchdown pass. A.J. Brown throwing 2 touchdown passes yesterday, but you got to give Kenny Pickett his props. He had broken ribs the entire week. Keeps it under wraps to all of us. You know, it leaks in the locker room that he had it since last Sunday. And, you know, I had people say to me on X yesterday, John, that, oh, I could bowl with broken ribs. I said, that's BS. Because as someone who bowls competitively, that is not true.
I can bowl with broken ribs.
And Jeff, with all due respect to you, but bowling and playing an NFL football game are completely different.
And trust me, you know what's funny? The people that say that, they can't even breathe with broken ribs. It's hard to do. It's what Kenny Pickett did was just sensational yesterday. And look, I tried to tell people all week, the players believe in Kenny Pickett. I don't care what you think about Kenny Pickett. I care what the players think. And which, by the way, fans don't listen to, even though they treat him like gods anyway. So, look, A.J. Brown said it. He was adamant about it last week. Devontae Smith was adamant about it last week. Saquon, a lot of people were. And, you know, I asked A.J. Brown straight up, do you think Kenny Pickett had something to prove? And he pretty much said, look, I'll let everybody else decide that, but yeah, he proved something.
Yeah, it was a good game. It was a good game.
20, he had him at 27-7, really. Well, they kicked a field goal after he got hurt. So,
guys, is it the last name, John? You keep asking. You can't figure out why fans don't gravitate to this backup. He's from the area and all these.
Yeah, he grew up in
Maybe
Eagles.
It's the last name. It's just a quarterback, Pickett. I don't know. It's just not the right name. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of anything. Because you're right. It is weird. He's a hometown kid.
Yeah.
You know what, though? I'll say this. Eagles fans aren't as bad as Steelers fans when it comes to Kenny Pickett. I got a lot of hate from Steelers.
Well, he had bigger expectations in Pittsburgh.
That's not his fault.
No, but I mean, when you're a first-round pick and all that,
and he did go to the University of Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's a lot of football.
Maybe they don't like him because he originally committed to Temple, so you know, maybe he turned on the city. I don't know.
Jeff, what do you think of Tanner McKee?
Zach Ertz turned on the city.
Yeah, how about Zach Ertz? How about that catch by Zach Ertz?
I don't know why we got rid of him. I still to this day I get pissed off every time I see him catch a ball. I'm like, we need a tight end too desperately, and that guy's still producing.
I had a fun tweet about that catch last night, John. I said Zach Ertz caught a 4th and 1 in the Super Bowl, and he caught a game-winning touchdown catches. That was cake for him.
Yeah, I you know, they were who was doing the game last night? I never pay attention to announcers.
Tirico and Collinsworth.
Yeah, Sunday night. But you know, they were debating back and forth. Oh, they're going to look at it. Did he catch it? I'm like, Zach caught it. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that Zach caught it, and that was the quickest, you know, affirmation in league history. So Washington into the playoffs. It's looking more likely Green Bay. We'll get to that, but Saquon first. Look, they tipped their hand by what they did yesterday. They got to 2,000, immediately removed Saquon Barkley. He's not playing next week. Am I right or wrong, Jeff Kerr?
Yeah, they did tip their hand, and look, I kind of knew throughout the week 2,000 was what they wanted. What he wanted, what they wanted. They kept that in-house, but 2,000 was the number. And again, in 16 games was the number.
Yeah. And Lane said that.
Yeah.
And
Lane admitted it. And Saquon won't publicly admit it, but that was it.
Yeah.
To me, though, John, you're 101 yards away from a 40-year-old record that everybody knows. It's like, who's the all-time home run king? Who's the NFL single-season rushing leader? That's what that is. Who has the most points per game in the season in basketball? You know the answers to that. You don't have to look it up. Look, he's close, and you're playing the stinking job. If we're up to Slay, he'd do it. If it were up to Jordan, he'd do it. If it were up to AJ, he'd do it. If it were up to Devontae, he'd do it. If it were up to Tanner McKee, Kenny Pickett, he'd do it. But I'm not disagreeing with Lane either.
Yeah,
I'm with you, Jeff. I see both sides of it. I'd like to see him go and do it. I think you can't legislate injuries, but I don't know. John's right.
Sometimes you got to play the bad guy, and I think Nick was setting it up. Look, if Minnesota lost, they might play him. They might roll him out there and say, "All right, let's give it a quarter. Let's see where we are."
Well, we'd still be having this debate too, because Detroit would have to win tonight.
Yeah, that's
they don't have to do that now.
Yeah. But I kind of defaulted because San Francisco shut it down, much like Dallas. So I think Detroit's going to roll over San Francisco. But you're right. We'd still be having that debate. And he mentioned we're going to watch some football. But once Minnesota won, it's out the window. They can't clinch they can't move from the number 2 seed. So nothing to play for. Zander brought up Jalen Hurts as well. He's worried about the rust situation. I wouldn't even take Jalen Hurts to the game if that's possible. I don't want him near the new. What good can happen after last year, Jeff Kerr? AJ Brown got hurt. Reed Blankenship got hurt.
And I think that's what they're going to take into consideration.
Sidney Brown got hurt, who was a big part
where,
of the
where was
defense.
that game? Wasn't that game at MetLife?
That was
Yes.
at MetLife. Yeah.
Yes.
It was a disaster.
Yeah. And all of a sudden you're out of the playoffs the next week. Now, I think a lot of people look at that and say, well, they weren't playing well, the collapse, blah, blah, blah.
But that was the reason why those guys played, because they were trying to get some momentum.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't play people in this situation. And if you do, you're a dummy. And I don't think the Eagles are a dumb organization. That's how I look at it.
I mean, I don't either, but, you know, and I know Saquon don't care either way, but I think as a football player, as someone who does respect the game as much as he does, there's definitely a part of him.
Well, plus he also wants to stick it to the Giants. Which
Trust me, he does. And
which I get. I get that. But can you imagine, Jeff, if he sprains his ankle? I'm not even talking about a serious injury. High ankle sprain.
Well, think about this too, John. I know people on the Giants, a lot of people on that Giants team don't hate him, but imagine if he takes a cheap shot like Kenny Pickett did yesterday.
We got that too. Anything can happen in a football game. And that's, you can't control it. That's why you're trying to control what you can control. And, the odds are what he doesn't do much in practice. If he's not playing in the Giants, he'll be out there in the playoffs. I guarantee you that.
Yeah, this is the side, too, I always look at. And look, I don't think the Eagles are going to play him personally, but, man, how many chances you're going to get in life at this?
Probably never again, Jeff. This is
a 2,000-yard running back has never ran for 2,000 again.
Yeah, this is the only chance.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Chris Johnson. I saw Chris Johnson welcome him into the 2K club. I saw Terrell Davis.
Barry did.
Yeah. So, 9 players are in history have done it. That's good enough. That's good.
Also, can we get off the whole Eric Dickerson hates Saquon narrative? He doesn't hate Saquon. Saquon put that to bed yesterday, too. First of all, Dickerson's comments weren't even bad.
No,
I wouldn't want anyone to break my record anyway. Yeah. No. And Saquon would be the same way.
Yeah, they were honest. I kind of like Dickerson's comment.
I saw him on the Sunday night broadcast too. He was like, "Of course, I don't want him to break him. Why would I?" And then he said, "But good luck to him," and all that kind of stuff. He handled it the right way. And Saquon yesterday, if he has a record. He doesn't want people to break his record.
He does
why
have a
would
record.
you?
He has the most touchdowns for any player in Penn State history, and
and he's already got franchise records for the Eagles. He mentioned, and if somebody down the road comes down and beats that record, yeah, of course he wouldn't like it, but I don't think anybody would. But your point to I don't know, like I could tell you for years, baseball 714, 755. I can't tell you what the record is now.
762.
Yeah.
But again, there's controversy in that one.
Yeah. So
and also the controversy for Barkley passing Dickerson, that's bullshit too.
Absolutely. Well, I agree, but you're going to have that. So Lane's comment was,
okay, you're going to have that. Then let's play this. You want to be historian of the game to Jeff Kerr? Well, Jim Brown beat Steve Van Buren's record in more games. O.J. Simpson beat Jim Brown's record in more games. It is the Rusty
I said that.
Nobody
record. Talks about it.
Yeah,
nobody talks about it.
Yeah, you know why? Because people are stupid. That's why
I agree with that. Lane said it best, as he usually does. They should just let Lane run the team. Eric Dickerson is who he is. Saquon is who he is. We just wanted to get to 2,000. We were fine with that. Better be safe than sorry. There it is.
Yeah, and look, 2,000 was always the number. That is the special number. You probably can name. I know I can. I can name anybody that's ran for 2,000 yards in an NFL season. It's a special mark, and it's always going to be one. It's, I can't name all the 5,000-yard passers, John.
No. Yeah, it is a special mark. Is it the baseball home run record? No. So I'm like tightrope in that. Yeah, it is but is it, and maybe that's the history of baseball, the lore of baseball. Is it that kind of in the public zeitgeist? I don't think it is, to be honest. I don't think people talk about Eric Dickerson very much until this year. Until somebody's on the cusp of breaking it.
They've talked about it. I mean,
but that's what I'm saying. Babe Ruth, legendary. Hank Aaron, legendary.
We also forget this too, John. I know you covered Pearson's 2,000 yard season. He wasn't close to Dickerson going into that last week. He made himself close.
Yeah. Anytime you get to 2,000, it's an impressive feat. But just kind of like, I'm in Team Lane, man. I'm like, awesome. Now let's go accomplish the real thing.
Yeah. It's Saquon wants to win a Super Bowl. His words are genuine on that. I mean, I know.
But I do think there's this nature of like, it's this record that everybody talks about. Nobody talks about it until somebody's on the cusp of breaking it. I don't think that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's that type of record where everybody knows it. In fact, I would say the majority of football fans, today's football fans, not historians like myself and you, Jeff, don't even freaking know who Eric Dickerson is. The vast majority of them.
Which is crazy because everybody should know who he is. Just not.
I agree with that.
Not even based on his what he did in college.
I agree with that. He's one of the greatest running backs of all time. The Pony Express from SMU we talk about. Yeah, all of us know that. But I'm saying he is not a part of American culture with that record.
You know how crazy it is, though? Like, it's been 40 years since anybody's touched that record. The baseball single-season home run record was broken in a shorter amount of time.
Well, we know why, but...
Yeah, we know why, but still, it's...
Didn't Adrian Pearson get close, though? He was like 8 yards away, wasn't he?
Yeah, but he wasn't in striking distance going into the last week like Saquon was. He needed basically what he did and a little bit more that last week of the season. And to Adrian Pearson's credit.
Yeah, and
he got close.
Again, I think he was like 10 yards or 8 yards away.
And again, as I pointed out, mediocre team, less than mediocre team, to be honest. And it's a bigger deal in that instance. I've said pretty consistently, if the Eagles are a 9-8 team, go for it. Go for it.
But they're not. They're 13-3.
Exactly.
And they're locked in the 2 seed.
Yeah. Completely different scenario.
Yeah. I mean, look, as someone, and again, I'll show my bias here. I want him to do it.
Well, yeah, you're a big Penn State guy. And Saquon. Look,
there's a lot of people at Penn State that they secretly hope he does it. You know, just for I know a certain coach there that really wants him to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeff, coming up to the playoffs now, Eagles are locked in at the number 2 seed. Who's the better round 1 matchup in your opinion, or who would you rather play? Commanders, Packers. I said to John, boy, right now it's the Packers. That's not a good draw for a first round matchup.
I mean, the NFC's loaded, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
we got 11 win teams. They're going to be at least an 11 win team is going to be a 7 seed. So, you know, but I'll look at it this way. I was asked this on WIP last night. I want the Commanders. I do. I even though they won last night, was not impressed. They let Michael Penix go right down the field, a rookie quarterback, just go right down the field on him and tie that game. And I do believe that this is credit to Jaden Daniels. Falcons get the ball in overtime. I think they win.
Yeah, maybe. I think both teams were sort of out of gas defensively. So perhaps, but I just think Green Bay's more talented. So that's why I'd rather face Washington.
Right.
You and I were talking before the Eagles game. I do think Washington's better coached, and that will surprise a lot of people. I think they play a smarter brand of football. I think Green Bay's dumb.
They are.
They don't play until there's 6 minutes left in the game and use all these weapons.
The Packers are the most overrated team in football.
I don't think they are from a talent standpoint. I think they are from a
result standpoint. They are.
Yeah.
They don't beat anybody that's any good.
Well, aren't there 5 losses, Jeff? 2 to the Lions, 2 to the Vikings, 1 to the Eagles. That's their 5, isn't it?
Yeah, and everybody goes, "Well, they're only by 22 points." I said, "I don't care. They lost. If they win 2 of those games,
but then if you peel back the onion, they're always behind by 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns.
They were down 27-10 yesterday. The Vikings were kicking their you-know-whats.
Yeah. Until, and I told you this before the game, they start passing the ball and taking advantage of their cornerbacks. They did the same thing in the first game. Why don't you do it from the kickoff?
Yeah, well, why do you even try to say, because Josh Jacobs is on your team?
Jordan Love had like 64 yards passing in like halfway through the third quarter in that game, maybe even longer. I was on the post.
I didn't like the criticism toward Love after that game too. Oh, he looked like a deer in the headlights, wasn't ready for the moment. I'm like, no, that's not it. It was the game.
Yeah, I think they're a dumb team, but boy, they're gifted. They're talented. So from that standpoint, and you saw the same thing in the first week of the playoffs last year against Dallas. They just went in there. Dallas at the time, people laugh at them today in their current incarnation, but Dallas at the time was undefeated at home, had been scoring 40 points a game at home.
They were really good last year.
And they got destroyed by the Packers because it was one of their A games and they played at their potential level. That's the concern. But bottom line is, as you mentioned with the NFC side of the bracket, Jeff, you're going to have to beat good teams. I mean, you can't hide from a good team. And to me, Washington is much, much better matchup from a talent standpoint. They're not quite there yet from a talent standpoint, but they have a great rookie quarterback who can pull what out of his butt at time and make plays and do this. So everybody's dangerous, but I would much rather have Washington. Much, much, much.
And look, it's not like the Eagles need to be motivated to play a playoff game, but I'm pretty sure there could be a little extra juice in there for what happened last week.
Absolutely. And a divisional opponent too. I mean, I think it's a whole different feeling of a game if you play Washington versus if you play Green Bay.
But my favorite aspect of this whole NFC playoff field is the worst team is going to be the 4 seed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is going to be who? The Bucks?
If the Bucks win, yes.
Yeah.
If the Bucks lose and the Falcons win, the Bucks should not lose next week.
No, they're playing New Orleans, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the
Falcons
Bucks should not lose either. They're playing Carolina.
Yeah, so I'll probably be chalk.
Yeah. Yeah, they're the worst team. And the Bucks are a good team. It's not like they're a bad team. But who really gets screwed is the loser of Minnesota, Detroit. Because they're going to win 14 games probably and be the 5th seed.
They will have, no matter what, they will have the most wins for a wild card team in NFL history.
Yeah.
You think that's going to affect one of those teams in the playoffs? I mean, think about the hype, like all the eyes on that game. Week 18, you're preparing. It's almost a playoff-like feeling. If you're the loser of that, game,
I think the loser of that game
bounce back and go right into a playoff atmosphere.
On the road.
I'd rather be the Eagles right now, knowing I'm the number 2 seed with a couple weeks to prep for that moment, than being the Lions or the Vikings going into a game that feels like a playoff game.
Also,
and if you lose that game,
I would not want to face the Bucks in the first. There is something I like about that Bucks team. I can't figure it out. Man, they just know how to get the most out of what they have. They did it last year. They're doing it again this year. They're going to be like a 9-7, 10-7 football team, and they are going to smell blood for the loser that week 18. They're going to want that game.
Yeah, I think whoever loses that game is really susceptible for the first round upset, which will be on the road, which is not fair. Do you think the NFL would ever change that?
No, because I think they got to reward division winners somehow, some way.
Yeah, but if the division sucks, that's brutal.
It's not that. It is what it is. You know,
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Vikings are so clearly better than, the other couple of division winners, but that's all right. I mean, I think you're probably right.
I mean, it is what it is. The Eagles hosted the playoff game in 19 and the NFC East wasn't good.
Yeah, it's been going for years. We've had teams under 500. And let's be honest, if you're Detroit or Minnesota, you should beat whoever is there anyway. So,
yeah, you won 14 games. You're a 14-2 football team. You should be able to beat pretty much anybody.
Yeah.
I think the only acceptable loss for them would probably be to the Eagles.
Yeah. Who's more difficult in your mind? 1-2, Minnesota or Detroit?
Even with all the injuries, I'd still say Detroit.
Yeah, so do I. But man, that Minnesota team offensively, man.
I again, and you and I have talked about this, John. Sam Darnold's having a great year.
Oh my God!
But again, do you trust him? Like, to
oh
win
my
a
God!
game?
I'm at the point where I look at everybody else and go, "What are you watching?" Like, you're not watching Sam Darnold with the New York Jets. You're watching Sam Darnold with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. How good is freaking Jordan Addison?
He's good. The Vikings have done a sneaky good job at drafting players.
TJ
Connell's got to be coach of the year, right?
I think he is. I would pick him.
Yeah, I mean, you have
TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah. Oh, they got better when he got back, and we knew that. Their offensive line's solid. Flores has done a great job. I know they've been faltering over the last couple, but he's still done a great job. It's Vikings. I've been taking the Vikings seriously all year, but now that we're getting to this,
well, it all comes down to nobody believes in Sam Darnold, and I think he might be the best quarterback in the NFC. And nobody believes in him.
What is he, third in league in touchdown passes now?
I don't know, but he's got some kind of record for 100 passer rating games. I don't. I think the consistency every single week, the accuracy.
By the way, John, this is one of those random stats, and no one took it seriously in '99. They'll take it seriously. They're probably taking it a little more seriously now because of how good the Vikings are. Sam Darnold has the most touchdown passes ever for a player on his fourth team.
Yeah, well, it never happened, so I think nobody believes it.
Yeah, Steve Berline did it, but Berline was old and in '99, and Carolina was
But I think people forgot, like, he was the 3rd pick in the draft, and not by mistake, because he had a better arm than everybody else. He's athletic. But you get in a crappy situation, and, everybody needs this. That's why when people criticize Jalen Hurts for a supporting cast, how stupid is that? You
really
can't play without a supporting cast.
I hate people like that. By the way, John, the post of the day yesterday on Twitter or X, whatever you call it, was my one buddy who's a Panthers beat writer. It was not Mike K, but he posted a picture of Mayfield and Darnold in their Panthers uniforms and said, caption this.
Yeah, well, that's another. I mean, you think about a couple weeks ago, Minnesota was playing Seattle, and everybody had those Sam Darnold, Geno Smith memes because of the Jets' issues at quarterback over the years.
The Jets are the worst. I'm sorry. Them and the Giants. What a bunch of dumb franchises.
Yeah. Oh, New York football.
Now you got Sauce Gardner telling T. Higgins not to go there.
Boy, T. Higgins, yeah. How about Cincinnati? How good is Joe Burrow?
Slay told me yesterday, if they make the playoffs, Joe's your MVP. Period. And he said, I'm teammates with Saquon.
Yeah, it's still the AFC quarterbacks, and you think about Mahomes, Allen, Joe Burrow. They're better, but the NFC has better teams. That's how I look at it.
I did in my weekly overreactions piece. I decided to do a fun one, and none of these teams play. It's supposed to be the Sunday afternoon games, but I had to bring it up. You're the Chiefs. You do whatever in your power to keep the Bengals out, meaning not play anybody.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
and I have people tell me that's cowardly. I'm saying, no, it's not. You earned that right.
I go back to 2018, where all Chicago had to do to avoid the Eagles in the first round. That was the double doink game.
They had to lose, right?
All they had to do was not play anybody in a meaningless game against Minnesota at the time, who was not in the playoffs, who at that time was a bad team, and they didn't do it. And they won the game.
And the Eagles got in.
And the Eagles got in because they won the game, and then the Eagles went and upset them. Remember, the Eagles were coming off the Super Bowl. That was the year after the Super Bowl.
They were 5-7 that year, too.
Yeah. And so they were a battle-tested team. And people would say that same thing about Chicago. Chicago was really good that year. That was the year they were good with Matt Nagy, and they were like 13-3 or something
Mitchell
of that
Trubisky
nature.
And all them, yeah.
Yeah, the one good year Mitch Trubisky had, and they won 13 games, I think. And everybody was saying that about Chicago. Oh, you can't be scared. You can't. All right, you can't be scared. Is it better to be dumb? Because if they lost to Minnesota, they would have had Minnesota again in the playoffs,
and they probably would be.
And they would have beat the brakes off them. At that time, they were just a styles make bites type of thing. They were a big physical team. Minnesota was, undersized. Blah blah blah. They would have beat the brakes off. But they said, "Nah, we'll go beat the crap out of them." And Eagles came in and beat them. It was a close game.
Yeah, I hate that. Oh, you could be scared. You know what? This is how I look at it. If you're the Bengals, you want to cry. Why don't you cry about being 0-3 at one point? And you had to put yourself in this situation.
Well, I never feel bad for teams that need bad teams to be. Yeah, you put yourself in that situation.
Yeah. And by the way, Zach Taylor is a horrible, horrible football coach. I hope he gets fired no matter what happens.
I hope. Come on, I don't hope anybody gets fired. There's a lot of worse. Well, I'm not a big Zach Taylor guy.
Yeah, me neither, Jeff. Jeff, I'm with you.
Ben Johnson is salivating at that opportunity. Salivating.
Whoever gets Ben Johnson's going to be wildly disappointed. That's my prediction.
Because the expectations are through the roof.
Yeah. I don't know, man. The only thing with the Bengals is you can't trust their front office to keep all those weapons around.
No, you can't trust them to do anything. They're notoriously cheap.
Well, that's what I mean. So if you're Ben Johnson and you go there and it looks all great with Jamar and T. Higgins, but ultimately those dudes are gone, I mean, you're looking at a different offense.
T. Higgins is getting paid.
In Cincinnati,
by
though?
the way, it just popped up from this is the stat I was talking about. Sam Darnold has 13 games this season with a 100 or more passer rating,
insane.
tying him with Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes for the second most in NFL history. Rodgers, number 1 with 14. Only 5 guys have done that.
But
And
it's a
everybody's like,
17-game season now, John.
well, that's in 16. That's in 16.
I know, but it's still funny when people.
Well, no, that's meaningless. Don't get me wrong.
And you know what Lane said to me after all you guys? No, you were with me yesterday when that happened.
Yeah.
When Lane goes, well, it's going to be an 18-game season soon anyway.
Yeah. Lane doesn't care. Yeah. I mean, it's not about 16, 17 games. I was just talking about at some point you got to admit Sam Darnold's pretty freaking good. And by the way, JJ McCarthy can go fuck himself.
John,
yeah. So where's JJ McCarthy going? That's the all-season.
New York Giants. That's who the Giants, because the Giants stink. The quarterback class stinks this year, I think. And they're going to be stuck with another.
My good friend of mine who's covered the Giants for a long time, loved what I told him. I said, even when you guys need to lose, you don't even know how to do that right. He goes, man, I'm borrowing that quote.
Yeah, that's awesome. They can't even get a bad quarterback because Cam Ward, Sanders, whatever. Good luck.
None of them impressed me this year. I'm not going to lie.
No, you're right, John. They're better off just giving up draft capital for JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, I don't even know if Minnesota wants to do it. I think Minnesota wants to keep JJ McCarthy and move on from Sam Darnold. So they just should sign Sam Darnold.
Giants fans aren't too happy with me because I keep putting out Saquon Barkley. Yeah, do you hear this, Sean? The Giants are better off with Tyron Tracy.
Look, I'm 100% on board with it. Was a great signing for the Eagles, and the Giants made the right decision. I don't think those two things are mutually exclusive.
They don't, but
Saquon, if Saquon's on the Giants, we've seen that movie 6 times. They're a little bit better. He's got 1,200 yards.
Can't escape the optics, though, John.
They're not.
I think it's what they chose to do, which was pay Daniel Jones. Say we're better off. They did get Daniel Jones.
The optics,
a great receiver, by the way. Malik Neighbors is a stud. But
yeah, he's better than Marvin Harrison too.
But Daniel Jones was gone in 11 weeks, so
I'm with you, Zander, when you say the optics are bad. But if I'm running a football team, and John Mara's an abject disaster, so I'm not.
So is his front office,
and he has been since. They moved on from Tom Coughlin, to be honest. That's how bad they've just been one of the worst organizations in the NFL. If you're a good owner, and there are very few good owners, and we've seen a lot of bad ones, and the Eagles have been really the generosity of the NFC with Daniel Snyder and John Mara and Jerry Jones compared to Jeffrey Lurie. It's just unbelievable the difference between that group. If you're running a good franchise, you don't care about optics. But if you're running a good franchise, you don't dip to the depths of the New York Giants. So it's kind of a catch-22. But I don't give a shit about optics.
I do think it's funny. Josh Harris has 11 wins as in a season in his second year with the Commanders. Daniel Snyder could never do that.
Well, Daniel Snyder's the worst owner maybe in the history of major American professional sports.
Donald Sterling exists.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's very few people in that conversation. Donald Sterling would be in that conversation. Daniel Snyder's in that conversation.
I think Norman Raymond's in that conversation too, John.
I don't think he's that bad. You got to go really low. Norman Raymond was terrible, but you got to go really. You got to go to the basement and then start digging to get to Daniel Snyder territory.
He's bad.
But I mean, the advantage the Eagles have in ownership in this particular division is huge. And I know that's not front page stuff for most fans, but it's the Eagles' success starts with Jeffrey Lurie.
Jerry Jones wanted to keep Mike McCarthy going into yesterday, and I was all for it.
I have no problem with Mike McCarthy. I don't think he's a great coach. I don't think he's a bad coach. The problem is not Mike McCarthy.
No.
I agree, John.
The problem is Jerry Jones.
Yeah. And you know, Jerry's a good businessman. He's not a good football owner.
No, he's not. Jeff, one more thing I want to ask you about the game yesterday. Eagles destroyed the Cowboys, man. They beat them 75-13 this year across 2 games. Just insane what they did to them. I mean, I know Cowboys were in full strength in either of those. I understand that, but it's still good. It's still good.
Yeah, but win to win in the
that.
NFL, Zander, they're not going to apologize for it.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think of Tanner McKee, Jeff? He's one of the guys who's highly talked about here.
The Mormon Missile.
The backup quarterback is the most popular athlete in Philadelphia, even when it's
now
Kenny
the
Pickett's
third
backup.
Quarterback, though, Jeff.
Now, they didn't like Kenny Pickett.
Do you guys think that Tanner McKee can be a starter in the NFL at any point?
I think he can be a QB too. You know, it's funny. Like,
I didn't say QB too. I said starter.
No,
Uh,
but Zander. So this is really funny, right? And look,
And by the way, when I say no, I mean right now. You know, you can develop and you can get better. But no, not right now.
So here's a funny Pickett story. And look, I defended Pickett all week based on what players have told me. I defended Pickett most of this year. But it was funny when the Eagles traded for Pickett, I did make the joke, like, what are they doing this? Like, I know why they're doing it. I'm like, damn, McKee may be better than him.
A lot of people think that. I don't know why.
I don't think he's better than him, but I think it was fair to have that conversation in April.
Boy, not for this organization. Like I thought, and I don't even blame fans for this. I'm not going to pick on, like media people buy into that who know this organization, and I'm not saying because the people that know this organization don't buy into that. They traded for Kenny Pickett for a freaking reason, to be the backup quarterback. They value backup quarterback more than any other team in the NFL. They like Kenny Pickett coming out. They gave up a 3rd-round pick, even though it was, you know, draft manipulation. They got 2 years of his first rookie contract.
Yeah, you got him for next year.
This was a calculated plan to have a cost-effective backup that can go in and win a game or two for you.
And to Kenny Pickett's credit, he did it.
And he did it on top of it. And there were all these people saying, "Oh, Tanner McKee might be." I mean, do you even know this organization?
I'm not trying to take away from Pickett when I ask it. I think McKee he's a good-looking prospect. I think he's
there were enough.
He's got the big arm. You know, he looks like that prototypical.
Kenny Pickett's got a stronger arm than Tanner McKee.
There were enough players in that organization that told me last week.
I know so. I see it in practice. We were talking about it.
Yeah, you would know. I'm genuinely.
We were
John and I talk about it.
We were talking about it in practice last week.
It doesn't. I will say it doesn't look like that. Like it looked like McKee had a stronger arm.
It's an optical 6'6" illusion.
It might
be because when you see 6'6" guys, you normally have these strong arm. That's not Tanner McKee. That's why he's a 6th-round pick.
He's a smart cookie, though.
Yeah, he's very smart. He does not have the typical arm strength of a 6'6" guy.
Look, if you have any doubts on Kenny Pickett and Tanner McKee, who should be the QB2 or not, look at that Kenny Pickett throw to AJ Brown that was called back, and AJ said that was a dot. That was an absolute dot, and I wish it would have counted.
You talking about the one-handed catch? That was
No. The touchdown throw where Pickett got knocked out of the game. The touchdown throw.
Oh yeah, that was
AJ told me that was an absolute dot. He said,
that was an unbelievable.
Some real arm strength on that throw. He zipped that ball in there.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable throw. Yeah, I mean, Yeah, if you watch him at practice, he's just got much more zip. And I'm
Well-
talking about functional football passes. I'm not talking about, who threw it 65. Oh, Bo Nix. I don't know if you saw the Bo Nix.
Oh, the Bo Nix throw was, oh man,
Yeah.
that was incredible. So the one to
67
Marvin Mims, yeah.
67 yards in the air, which I always laugh about. People say, because how many times are you going to throw a ball in an NFL game 67 yards in the air? Well, Bo Nix did it.
Jaden
Again.
Daniels had a pass like that this year.
Yeah, and there's certain guys who can do it. Brett Favre, but as far as functional football throws, like Brett Favre's got the strongest arm I've ever seen.
Even in his 40s, he has strong arm.
Yeah. Kenny can rip
And he
it.
can sling them. That pass to Devonta Smith was pretty. The touchdown pass.
Yeah. Well, he's not top tier arm strength, but he can rip it.
It's
But
definitely
there's
good
a
enough.
reason why he got picked in the first round, even in a bad QB class.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely good enough.
Yeah.
Jeff, one more question for you before you go, man. Do you have any concern, like I do, with Jalen having 3 straight weeks off going into a playoff game?
No, because they're calculating the weeks off, to be honest, Zander. It's like, don't have to play him next week. I mean, really, was it surprising to you guys if Kenny Pickett gets the week off?
No, I expect him to get the week off.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if he can play. He's got broken ribs.
Yeah, I mean, he had broken ribs all last week and somehow pulled it off.
This is week 3 preseason vibe. Tanner McKee and Ian Book. You might even get some Ian Book.
I'm still laughing at Steelers fans when I said, Kenny Pickett played the whole game of broken ribs. They're like, well, you didn't play the whole game. I'm like, yeah, he did, because the Eagles were up so much. And I actually said this to somebody. The Eagles were up so much in that game that he didn't have to come back in. But the Steelers wouldn't know that, especially against good teams. They don't know what's like 20 points.
Yeah, the Steelers.
Any Steelers fan that comes into my mentions, I said, unless you tell me who Hydroplane is, you don't get to talk to me about the Pittsburgh Steelers at all.
Shep is he's upsetting Steelers fans, Cowboy fans.
Steelers fans don't even bug me. I like the Steelers. I like, that organization. But their fans are the most spoiled, rotten, dumbest fans.
See, I think the Green Bay fans are the most spoiled. I've said it.
Oh, they're spoiled too.
Yeah.
Cowboys fans are dumb because apparently touchdowns don't count unless you're Emmitt Smith. Emmitt Smith is the most one-yard
Where are let's get in trouble. Where are Eagles fans, Jeff?
They're up there too, but they're all up there. But again, I just think it's funny that Cowboys fans don't count Jalen Hurts' rushing touchdowns because they're a yard out, but yet their running back, who I can sit here and argue to death, he's the greatest of all time, or one of the greatest, has the most 1-yard rushing touchdowns in NFL history. And you don't hear a word about it.
Well, yeah. The people who don't like Jalen Hurts' 1-yard touchdowns, like, who cares?
Do we not like Kenny Pickett's 1-yard touchdown?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like the way Nick handled that situation. I will say that.
I flipped out
about it.
I flipped down the CBS Slack room yesterday because someone said, someone who, I don't think he knows that much about football. So, well, they would give Saquon Barkley the ball at the 1-yard line. He'd be an MVP.
I see both sides of this.
No, but Zander, this is where I'm getting this at. I'm going to tell people this as someone who probably remembers almost all of Saquon Barkley's touchdowns at Penn State. Saquon always sucked inside the 5.
Yeah, he's not a short yardage runner.
Trace McSorley got the touchdowns.
Yeah.
So this is something
that's good. You brought up Emmitt Smith was maybe the best short yardage runner ever. Barry Sanders was not.
Yeah.
Their styles.
Marcus Allen was really good inside the 1 too.
Yeah, their styles, and they do the right thing. The Eagles.
Yeah. John, I actually criticized your boy one time when the Eagles played them in the playoff game, Adrian Peterson.
Yeah.
Adrian, there was like, oh, you got 2 touchdowns. You had 2 touchdowns. You had 2 touchdowns. I'm like, yes. He also had 25 carries for 80 yards, and one of them was a 40-yard run. He scored twice inside the 1. It's a good game, but don't, I mean, touchdowns are touchdowns. You still have to earn them, but I think any Vikings fan would tell you Adrian Peterson didn't have an Adrian Peterson type game.
Yeah. No, well, Adrian, I've always, and I got to cover Adrian up close. Adrian's one of the greatest runners of all time. I used to say, and he's not a great running back. He was a bad pass protector. He was a bad pass catcher. Boy, I used to get it from Vikings fans. He's a great runner, but not a great running back.
He's a top 10 runner of all time, though.
Best runner since Jim Brown, I say.
Yeah. And he was like that all throughout college, too. I mean, it was.
Yeah.
Where would you put Dickerson on that? Because
Dickerson's top 5. He's top 5. Walter Payton, Dickerson, AP. Saquon's got to be in the conversation now. I don't go that high. I think the best this will piss Eagles fans off. You brought him up. Best running back. Listen, people. Running back. That means runner, pass catcher, pass protection. Emmitt Smith.
Yeah, I would agree. That's why I love him. Look, I can't stand the Cowboys. I love Emmitt Smith. Always did. He's a great football player.
Yeah.
Saquon likes Emmitt Smith. He respects history. By the way, the greatest football player in Eagles history is still Steve Van Buren.
That's probably true. That's
probably. What was he, Jeff? 40s or 50s?
40s. Yep. He's
49, 50.
He scored the winning touchdown in the 48 championship game, ran for 195 yards in the 49 championship game, NFL's all-time leading rusher. He held every single running back record when he retired. Every single one. Jim Brown had to pass every single one, and it took him multiple years to do it. Just
pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah.
Jeff, we got to run, man. We got the great Chris Franklin waiting in the green room. Thank you for joining in today, Jeff. We appreciate it, brother. We'll talk to you next week after a snooze fest game, Eagles-Giants. All right, brother?
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. Good stuff there from Jeff Kerr joining us on Birds 365. We appreciate him joining the show. As I mentioned, we got the great Chris Franklin coming up next here on Birds 365. Before I get to our break, I do want to tell you guys about the great people at BetUS. Check them out. You can see the promo code I put on your screen. It's YouTube 150. Gives you 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit. You get 125% on your second and third deposit, all up to $2,000. So deposit less and bet with more at BetUS. Go to betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. We'll be back in 3 minutes, everybody, with Chris Franklin on Birds 365.
Ignite your nights with free live entertainment daily, only at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia's Center Bar. 7 days a week, enjoy some of the region's top party bands, performers, and DJs as they take the stage in the heart of the casino action. Great cocktails, live music, and lively moments. It's all happening at Center Bar at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia. Visit livecasinophilly.com for more details and the complete list of upcoming events. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong as the #1 health insurer in the region. No IBX is always looking out for you.
We noticed that there was mold creeping into our basement about a year and a half ago, and wanted to make sure that we were getting rid of the problem permanently. We actually reached out to several different contractors to get it resolved, and actually 2 of them recommended DryTech to us as a long-term solution. Other than the noise factor, we wouldn't even know that there was work being done on the basement level. It's really been a clean process for us.
Score and save this football season on your car insurance. Before the next game, save up to 40% on your auto insurance policy. That's right, 40% savings. Call an audible this season and contact the Del Val Insurance Group. They're an advocate for you, not an insurance company. That means they'll get you the right coverage and save you up to 40%. Call managing partners Fran or Jim of Del Val Insurance, 215-354-0122, or score and save at dvigi.com. dvigi.com.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to Bird 365, a Victory Monday edition of the show. Eagles clinched the NFC East. They clinched the number 2 seed in the NFC, and Saquon Barkley gets his 2,000 rushing yards, just the 9th player in NFL history to do it, coming off a 41-7 win over the Dallas Cowboys. We're joined now by Chris Franklin from NJ.com. Chris, welcome to the show, man. How you doing on this Victory Monday for the Birds?
Doing all right. There's not a shortage of things that are going on after yesterday. My goodness, you listen them off. It's a lot of work last week, but it's fun work when you look at all the stuff that happened.
All right, let's start with the lead, Chris Franklin. You're the Eagles head coach. You got to tap in for Nick Sirianni. Saquon playing in a meaningless game against the New York Giants to get the NFL's all-time rushing record against the team that let him go.
Saquon, you did a very good job. You got over 2K. If you had 50 yards to go, we're playing you. We want you fresh for the playoffs. I'm sitting them. I think you got to sit them. And you look at the way that you got so much more to play for. You won't have a true bye week because you don't have that number 1 seed. And boy, looking back now, look at that Atlanta game and look at the way that the game against Commanders ended. That played a big role in something.
Yeah.
But you look at that, you don't have them. You gotta sit them because I'd rather have. I don't want to risk it because if you throw them out there just to try to get that means you got to send the offensive line out. You send the offensive line out, somebody gets rolled up on, and you lose them for the following week in a wild card game. You question yourself. So I'm not throwing no offense to the backups at all, but I'm not putting him out there just to run behind the backup.
You got to play everybody. You got to play everybody.
Yeah. So I got to sit him.
And you got to play Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Are you playing Jalen Hurts this week? Because he's going to pass concussion protocol. Let's be honest. Although the Eagles may not admit it, but because he's not playing. But would you play Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, and that simulated game in practice that we can't see. Yeah, I do that.
Chris, you don't have any concern about that? John tells me I shouldn't have any concern about that. I don't know. I don't love the idea of 3 straight weeks off for Jalen coming into a crunch time playoff game that you must win. It's not my favorite scenario, if I'm being honest. What's your take on that?
I think it's happened before. We've seen this happen before with other quarterbacks as well, too. I think with Jalen, if there was something where he was a year into a new system or he was still very green, then yeah, I'd probably worry about that, especially with everything in there. But being that he's experienced the playoffs before, being that he is a little rusty, yeah, I think this is a week where you ramp him up in practice. You do as much as you can. You sit him out for the game. And you give these guys a little bit of rest. You let them get physical a little bit, a couple of days, and then he goes on. Like game speed, what have you. I know it's going to be a little rusty, what have you, but I think everybody's going to be rusty because I wouldn't be surprised if some of these other
By the
teams
way, they start slowly anyway, 95% of the time. So that's just baked into it.
You don't want that, though, in the playoffs, Johnny Mac. You don't want that in the playoffs.
Well, yeah, we'll see. But I'm not worried about rust with Jalen Hurts. In fact, I look at it, Chris, as a bit of a silver lining because you calm the finger down, which has been an issue for him when it comes to ball handling and stuff like that. He's still got the broken finger, as he calls it, the shattered finger. So you calm that part of it down. I think that's a little bit of a silver lining in the fact that he should be healthier for the first game in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'd even be more concerned if it was on his throwing hand. Since it's not throwing hand, okay, yeah, it's the one that protects the ball and moves around and under center. Yeah, but that one, like, then I think the biggest thing is just the fact that he doesn't feel like he got beat up over time. Just the fact that he's fresh for these last 3 years. He's be able to move around a little bit more, especially those legs too. That's the big thing. I know the concussion protocol is the head injury. You got to deal with all that stuff, but he's not running around. He's not getting hit for another week. He's not getting what have you. So I think you're going to have a really rested, fresh thing. And I wouldn't be surprised when you use him in the design run game on his own read, not throwing him out there like 20 billion times and running it. But whenever you do that, I think you'll see that extra quick step before him as well, too, getting around that edge. And I think it'll be a little bit more effective, at least early in the playoffs.
All right, who do you want? Green Bay Packers or Washington Commanders?
Packers. And I'm saying without hesitation, I want the Packers. The reason being, you look at the Packers are a team when I look at them, especially the 3-2 in the last 5 games. The 2 losses came against, you can say it's the division, but they came against the Vikings and the Lions, 2 of the best teams in the conference.
Very close games, though. Very close.
Yeah, they're close. One possession games, yeah. But I look at this one, it's more. You haven't seen them in since the season opener. That Commanders game, that's become personal now. When you look at both sides, the way it's hated, the way it's that one too, and I think it's one of those things where you look at the Commanders like they'll get every team gets up to the playoffs, but it's one of those things where you're like, wow, it's cool, and like they're really going to try to take it to them no matter what, and try to step on you in the face, what have you. You see some dirty stuff, and we've seen how tensions have flared between these 2 teams, and you don't want, say, Jalen Carter, cheating, what have you, somebody get thrown out for saying something, doing something extracurricular. And then I look at the way that the Packers offense has been operating lately. I mean, Josh Jacobs hasn't gotten 100 yards in a while. You look at the last couple of games against the Saints, and you look against the Vikings, he hasn't thrown, what's the name? Jordan Love hasn't thrown over 200 yards. And I look at those combinations. It's not going to matter because it's Green Bay coming in here. But the fact they're coming on the road, they have to use their silent count and everything, and little factors like that. I'm taking, and they're not used to playing in the link as much as the Commanders were. I'd rather take the Packers. And
wow, I'm surprised. I got to be honest. I'm surprised. Most people are fearful of that mighty, explosive Green Bay Packers. I think here's my thing. I think the Packers have more talent than the Commanders at this stage, but I think they're poorly coached. I think the Commanders with Dan Quinn, as weird as it sounds, are a better coach team. But while I say that, I'd still rather face the team with less talent than the team with more talent. That's where I am with Green Bay. Because if they click on a particular game day, they can be tough to stop.
And I'll count this. Another reason why I don't want to see the Commanders, they're clicking right now, and they got no momentum. They got a lot of young guys who don't know that it's a playoff game, and sometimes you think the lights are bright or whatever. These guys, it's like, we didn't think we'll be this far right now. We got house money. Might as well.
That's true. You can look at it all ways. Yeah. Like, I like Vic against young quarterbacks, but I thought Vic was uncharacteristic the second time against Jaden Daniels. He's blitzing. It's like, you didn't blitz at all in the first one. You completely shut him down for the most part. And then I thought he got a little bit too, okay, we got to do something different. Well, let's make him see if he can handle this before you do something different. I thought he made a big mistake there. So maybe there's sort of the market correction and it goes back to normal. Either way, you're going to have to beat a good team, Chris Franklin. The NFC is deep. There's going to be a 5 seed that probably wins 14 games.
It's crazy. And remember all the talk we were talking before the season, myself included, like, The AFC is going to be tough. Look at the AFC.
Yeah.
Right, the face. Like I really think it's really think I don't even care if it's the Chiefs that come out the AFC. I think whoever wins the NFC wins the Super Bowl this year. It's that tough because it's a war of attrition. You got so
I'm
much
not going
talent on
that
that.
far. The Kansas City Chiefs still exist, Chris.
Yeah. Boy, the
Oh,
Chiefs, I'll tell you what about the Chiefs, Chris. They're playing better. They got Hopkins playing like Hopkins. They got Hollywood Brown back. They're getting their guys back at the right time. Boy, the Chiefs look tough, man.
You got a bunch of
Really
running
tough.
backs now. I mean,
Yeah, Pacheco's back.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be I don't think it's going to be pushover, but to see that the flaw that they have a fatal flaw, and we look at the players that we look at the game against the Bills. When you look at some of their other wins that they've had, they're one possession games and they've been really close. When you go into really, really talented teams, I just look at them and I think there's one little thing there, and you still have the Andy factor. I know he's cleaned up some of the time management stuff. That still crops up here and there. It still crops. I look at the assistant. Spagnuolo's the only assistant that I really worry, or coach besides Andy, I worry about on that staff. Other than that,
You don't like Matt
he can be
Nagy?
had.
Matt
I know
Nagy.
the universe. Nah, it's and if somebody tries to take him as a head coach again, good luck. Yeah, you got that. That's
Speaking of head coaches, and you mentioned Delaware and your history with Delaware, has there ever been a less likely head coach than Deshaun Jackson? Delaware State? Where did that come from?
Hey, it's a trend. I mean, everybody's working. I mean, Eddie George. Well, you can really go back to Doug Williams too with Brandon. But when it comes to HBCUs, you look at the former players going back there, and it's good. And I think Mike has. I didn't foresee Deshaun happening at all. And
When is Shady getting a job? Shady's next.
Maybe Morgan State opens up sometime soon or something like that. Then you had the Eagle instead of the MEAC, like the Mid-Eastern Conference, you got the Middle Eagles Conference or Athletic Conference, what have you, because you have three. I can't wait. The one thing I cannot wait to see is Vic versus Jackson on the sideline. I'm gonna try a lobby to cover that because that's gonna be interesting to watch. Because huh? How did they get here? But hey, it's good recognition for those programs. They'll definitely be able to recruit. They got the platforms to do that. And
I was thinking about Vic versus Jackson, and I was thinking about Vic Fangio versus Lamar Jackson. That's what popped in my head.
That's another good matchup too.
Yeah.
Vic will probably frustrate over there heavy, but it wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of offense in a lot of those.
He already did it once. Yeah, he did it once. Yeah.
Chris, a lot of talk about Tanner McKee. You like him over Kenny Pickett? What'd you make of the game yesterday? I thought both
the gutsy. Let me add the gutsy Kenny Pickett playing through broken ribs.
A lot of talk. I thought both backups played pretty good yesterday. What'd you see?
I'll start with that. In looking at Kitty for dealing what he was dealing with, for taking those shots that he took, and able to stand within there. There's a lot of playing quarterbacks. Not an easy position, and it's not just for the X's and O's part or what have you. A lot of his mentality of staying in the pocket, throwing them, taking the shots. He showed me something yesterday, being able to do that. He looked good in terms of that. He's surprised. This is going to sound really bad. I'll call it, but he still shocked me on a couple of those longer throws towards the end zone, especially to Devontae Smith. It kind of shocked me. I was like, I was a deep corner around and hit him. And it was a shocking night. You have to worry about that. Still, that being said, I like Tanner personally a little bit more than Kenny. I think I look at his ability to get the ball out quickly, the arm strength, he's still able to quickly decipher, read the coverages. I was in the next year, in next offseason, if somebody comes calling looking for a backup quarterback or a quarterback, I do it. The Eagles QB room, and I put it on Blue Sky for it really reminds me of the 2002 season, where if you compare each one to each one, Jalen Hurts and Donovan McNabb, they both play the same role. When you look at the physical attributes of Coy Detmer versus the physical attributes of Kenny Pickett,
ooh, that is a lot of disrespect for Kenny Pickett.
No, I don't think so.
We were talking. Now, Chris knows because Chris used to play quarterback. If you watch Kenny Pickett in practice, he's got more zip on the football than Tanner McKee. but Tanner's 6'6", so people assume he's going to be Drew Bledsoe, but he's not. He's not. For functional football throws, Chris, as you mentioned, the corner route, the throw that AJ that got called back, as Jeff Kerr said, AJ called it a dot. That was a hell of a throw by Kenny Pickett. Functional football throws. He's got more zip on the ball than Tanner McKee.
Well, if I'm running in a lot of intermediate routes, I like it. I still like the fact that I can really challenge somebody and stretch the field vertically with McKee as well too. And I think it functionally, like you say, like Pickett for the offense, if you need him short term, like a game or two, like yesterday, no problem with him at all. But like say if Jalen went down week 4 and I have to run this offense the rest of the season, and
then we both go Ian Book.
He's a cool man. He's a good guy. But I want somebody to I don't want those safeties to keep creeping in instead of playing back 15 to 12. I don't want them creeping up and putting 9.
No, I'm not. I don't want to overstate it. I mean, let's be honest. If you have to play a whole season with Kenny Pickett or Tanner McKee, you're probably not in good shape.
You're like the Falcons. Falcons treading to life. You're probably like an 8 or 9 seed.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, but as a backup quarterback, like I have this weird thing with Kenny Pickett because so many Eagles fans dislike Kenny Pickett. And I can't figure it out because he grew up, he's a local kid. He grew up an Eagles fan. Normally, that's somebody they plug into for some reason. And I haven't seen him play. I mean, he won 14 games as a starter in Pittsburgh. I don't know. It's very weird to me, Chris. I can't explain. And he went out there yesterday. He played well in Washington. He did enough to win. Let's be honest. Devontae will be the first one to raise his hand. If he catches the football, they win that game. And Devontae never drops that. That was the most uncharacteristic drop we've seen all season. So now you got really 2 full games. That's a pretty good backup quarterback. Howie Roseman can spike the football on that trade. That's a pretty good, especially when you're watching Cooper Rush on the other side.
Yeah.
Goodness.
That I'll agree with.
Cooper Rush his decision making was
horrible.
Oh my God. Like, he had Tolbert. I'm looking at the first one on it. He had Tolbert wide open and he takes a sack, like wide open a corner, takes a sack. His decision, the CJ Gardner-Johnson. Like I'm trying to process and think in my mind, what am I doing? Okay, I take the snap. I'm looking at this pressure. Oh, let me look at the receiver that's right there. Oh, hi, you know what? I have Milton Williams place. Let me throw to that receiver sitting there with a bracket over top of him. What is he thinking? Like
that was one of the worst pick six I've ever seen. I'm like, what are you doing, dude?
Might as well just pick points to him. I'm throwing here. Here I go. This is bad.
So yeah, I think if you put that definition on it and say, all right, what do you want out of your backup quarterback? Maybe because of Nick Foles, maybe Philadelphia's a little bit broken and they expect more. But generally, when you talk about backup quarterbacks, you want a guy you can persevere with for a game or two in case Jalen Hurts sprains his ankle or in this case gets a concussion. And he did it. He did it. He had you in a position to win one game, and he won you the second game with broken ribs. If I'm Howie, I'm spiking the football. See? I got us a good backup quarterback.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was an upgrade over Gardner Minshew. It was an upgrade over Gardner Minshew, and it gets you moving and you treaded water. And it was so. Yeah, I had no problem with that for a short term. And you got another interesting decision coming up because you still got on the contract. Key is it's an interesting decision coming up that I think they keep Pickett. Maybe they try to offload. I don't know. It's too much going on that. It's still way too early, but yeah, it's a good problem to have somebody to have 2 good competent backup quarterbacks.
You think Pickett sits next week, Chris, because of the ribs?
I would. I really would. And there's also like you can probably get away with this stuff too because you got so much. You don't have to play a lot of these guys now. So maybe you do see Pickett and Book rest up both and you go from there. I'm not activating anybody. Honestly, I'm not really activating anybody right away from the IR or something like that. For I'm just letting them sit. I wonder if they activate the practice window for Goddard and stuff like that. See if they can do stuff like that. But yeah, I start because get them as many reps as you can, showcase them, split some tape out there. Like, hey, look at the end of the Cowboys game. Hey, look what he did against the Giants. Now, which is saying like, yeah, it's the Cowboys and Giants, but still, look what he did against them. Put some tape on everything. Let Book get some run, as to say, hey, thanks for coming in, filling in for this role for us. We know it's rough. You know you're not really doing anything, but we needed you. You came here. Here's a half. Here's the second half. Put some tape out there, and hopefully somebody signs you next season.
Yeah, I think we might see some Ian Book this weekend. I'm not even joking.
Yeah. Lou Nichols,
and it probably
Aaron
won't
Davis
look
Price.
as good without AJ Brown and the Devontae Smith.
I
And
think Jahan Dotson might get a target though.
Oh, Jesus.
I still don't know what the hell happened.
I don't even know.
Olamide was torching people last night.
Yeah, Olamide's having a good year, man.
Yes, he is.
Yeah,
he's caught on, and they learned how. You wonder now if you had him. Well, they still probably get to see.
No, he wouldn't do anything here.
Yeah,
anything. They wouldn't look at him.
Yeah, but the problem is, John, we sent a third rounder to replace him. So, like, if you weren't going to do anything, I would have rather just paid Olamide. What did he get paid? Not much.
Nothing. 1 year.
I mean, we sent a third rounder for a third. If we weren't going to use him, shit, just pay Olamide to the 1 million or 1.2, whatever the heck it was, and keep him here instead of sending a third for Dotson, who doesn't get the ball.
I think part of that was also they got the extra year too with him, so that's why I'm wondering that it costs a little bit more. I would try. I bet you try to. I wouldn't be surprised if Howie tried to float like a fifth or like a sixth or something like that. But it's like we got the extra year. Everybody knew they're trying to get rid of him too. So.
I think Howie has a different job. I think people realize, like Howie looks at the roster and says, "All right, I need to improve here," and then the coaching staff gets the roster and says, "All right, we don't need to get these people involved because it's going to AJ and DeMonte." So it doesn't matter. We've now seen Olamide, we've seen Julio Jones, we've seen Quez, we've seen Jahan Dotson now. It could be Johnny Wilson, it could be Anaya Smith, anybody.
Greg Ward.
The one guy who got the ball a little bit and then he got hurt was Britton Covey. Britton was starting to get involved in the offense, and unfortunately he's done for the season now. Everybody else, they don't even target. So people say Jahan Dotson stinks. Maybe he does. I don't know. I can't tell you. He doesn't get opportunities.
Well, first I thought it was a Jalen Hurts thing, but we've had a couple other quarterbacks in there now, and they still don't go to him. So, I mean, even when you had A.J. Brown miss time, Devontae Smith missed time, still nothing for Jahan Dotson.
Clear
can't figure it out.
Clear out routes, third options, and fourth options, and blocking. That's pretty much you're getting out.
But he wasn't a third option every game.
One of my favorite Doug Peterson moments was Matt Collins at the time. And Doug just got so frustrated, and he said, and I could say it now because he admitted it, and he said, he's the sixth freaking option. You should fire me if I'm drawing up plays for the sixth option. That's how the Eagles look at things. Yeah.
Well, maybe next time tell Howie Roseman that so that he doesn't send a third round pick. I mean, what the fuck?
Yeah, well, Howie will tell you it's draft, manipulation because they got to pick back. I think what they get back, a fifth rounder, fifth. Yeah.
They got it back. They got that back. I'll say fifth or sixth, and then that's going to be used.
Day 3 pick for a guy that got what does he have? 10 catches this year? Maybe that. I don't even know if he has that.
I think he's got 9 or 10. No, he's 12. He's up to 12.
12. All right. Let's go.
Yeah, they got a fifth round pick back in exchange for a conditional third, which is the higher of the Eagles pick and the Dolphins. So
a third for some rub routes, Johnny Mac. That's what the deal was.
Yeah. Well, they got a fifth back. That they always.
A
They
third
always.
for some
If
rub
I
wrap
ever
in the
say
face.
that, they always text me. Remember, we got a fifth back. Yeah.
Of course they say that. That was a crappy trade, though. Anyway, all right, Chris. A couple minutes left here. Final question. What just your final thoughts on that game, man? What do you flush it and move on? I think it's a big win for the Birds, obviously, but you played a shitty Dallas Cowboy team. Are you all sights on the playoffs? No starters next week. Get Ian Book into the game and prepare for playoffs.
Yeah, I think this is a game where you start to see you really test to see how your depth is. This is a development game. You want to see all these guys, the rookies that you haven't seen all season. I want to see what Max Keegan looks like, what he looked like from training camp, put it in now. I want to see what Anaya Smith looks like. I want to see Johnny Wilson. I want to see what these guys, how far they've gotten across. And
Darian Kennard.
Boy, I don't want to see any of those guys.
Hey, you got
John Dodson, Ian Book, Lou Nichols, AJ Woods. Bring them up.
Might as well. Yeah, at this point, you might as well see what you got. And
Johnny Wilson. Get Johnny Wilson involved.
Yep, and throw him a few passes and see on that one too. I think that's for me. That's the fun part to look at this part. You see a lot of these guys who could play future roles in the next couple of years. You want to see this job they've done with those developmental things they've done.
Jeremiah Trotter, getting in there a little bit yesterday. Oren Burks with the forced fumble.
Yeah,
Burks had the most snaps on defense. I thought he did well.
Any fear for you guys that Q's hitting the rookie wall? He went 15 weeks, no touchdowns given up, and he gave up 2 in the last 2 weeks. Any fear of that or no?
Not for me. I don't know about Chris.
No,
I don't know. They've been playing more man covers recently. That's my bigger concern. Why have they shifted?
Put it out there so teams see it recently and they switch back in the playoffs to go back to the zone. That weird the zones and stuff to do so they don't get a sense of it. That's my feeling.
Maybe. All right. Thanks. That calms me down a little bit. 3D chess from Vic Fangio. Because I think he's getting exposed because he's in man coverage. And again, Eagles fans went nuts with the lockdown stuff. There's no such thing. If you're throwing a back shoulder to AJ Brown or you're throwing routes at Josh, you're going to get beat. From Patrick Surtain on down, you're going to get beat. Sauce Gardner, Jair Alexander, when he's ever healthy, all these good press corners, they all get beat. Jalen Ramsey's going to the Hall of Fame. He gets beat. Quinyon Mitchell's out there on an island with Terry McLaurin. He's going to get beat. What Vic didn't do is protect him earlier. Why? Hopefully Chris is right. Hopefully they ship back to what they were doing earlier in the season. I think that's the issue. But I don't think rookie wall has anything to do with it.
And they've had the blitz more too because you haven't gotten a lot sometimes towards later games you haven't gotten the pass rush that you needed. So blitzing more, you got to go more man.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Good stuff, Chris Franklin. Thanks for joining today, brother. We appreciate it. Make sure you guys follow Chris at C Franklin News. Read all of his work at NJ.com, one of the best in the business. Chris, we appreciate you joining today, brother. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right, y'all have a good one now. Happy New Year.
Thanks, bud.
Thank you, man.
Happy New Year. Appreciate it.
Good stuff from Chris Franklin there on Birds 365. Always appreciate talking to Chris and Jeff, 2 great guests that we had on here on Monday. Birds clinch the NFC East, everybody. Clinch the number 2 seed in the NFC. Saquon Barkley, 2K yards. So good game yesterday, John. We got a couple super chats we'll read, but any thoughts after listening to Jeff and Chris break it down?
Well, I like Chris's thought on defense. We haven't talked much about the defense today because of the backup quarterbacks in Saquon 2000. But yeah, the defense is, shifted a little bit, and it hasn't been that successful to shift.
But they have created a lot of turnovers, John. 9
turnovers. They have gotten a lot of turnovers. They gave up a ton of explosive plays in Washington, though.
Yeah, and they gave up a couple yesterday too, and a couple that Cooper Rush missed, a couple overthrows.
Yeah, he had a big play to Cavante Turpin too, where Turpin just dropped. They had that screen set up, man. He might have took that to the house, and Turpin dropped it. That wasn't his fault, but yeah, Dallas was really limited, so it didn't show up as much. But Yeah, maybe Chris is on to something. Maybe they ship back for the playoffs. But I mean, they were so successful doing it, and to the point where, we talked about Vic's history, which is pretty stunningly consistent, about blitz percentages, right? 20, 22, 23, low
Right.
20%
He was
every
even a
single.
little below that at one point, wasn't
Oh
he?
yeah, he was down
Yeah.
at 17.7. Maybe he just wanted to get back to 22%, and I'd have to look up where it is right now, but yeah, he was down at, I know, 17.7% was as low as he got. And that's pretty low. So, but they were successful. So I don't necessarily understand why the shift came. And it came in the Commanders game. And I'm, thinking they were so successful against Shane Daniels in that first game. They had him confused. And obviously the second game didn't work. So you wonder what was going on. I'm trying to pull it up, where the Eagles are. Still low, 18.1%. So it hasn't spiked it that much, but it hasn't looked as good. And they certainly, because Quinion and Slay have been beaten on islands recently.
Yeah, they have. Good stuff. Let's get to a couple of super chats before we get out of here. Appreciate everybody being here this morning. Got a great crowd. Don't forget to hit that like button for Birds 365. 164, but we got over 650. Can we get the 200 likes? Can you guys smash that like button if you enjoyed the show today? We appreciate all you guys. Fly Parks checks in. He said, Zander, Mac, Jeff, if Saquon breaks the record, is he your unanimous MVP?
No,
I don't think he'd be for me. No.
He's got no shot, to be honest.
Did you see the numbers, John, on Joe Burrow?
Yeah, Joe's having a great
forget
year.
what it was. He's like only two other quarterbacks in history to do what he's done, and they both won the MVP. I think it was Brady and Rodgers. Sucks he's on a bad team.
I mean, most people have it down to Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson. Unfortunately, it's a quarterback award. I warned people that. A lot of people think Joe Burrow can be in it if they make the playoffs. He's going to be Offensive Player of the Year, Saquon. That's the award, and he's going to win that. So that's the award to focus on. But he's not going to be the MVP, no matter unanimous. And that's not his fault. I warn people it's a quarterback award.
Right. It is. That's what it is. A-Team checks in. What's up, Jason? Lane basically spilled that they probably aren't playing, but Barkley does have less carries than Eric Dickerson, even if it's one more game. Got to go attempts on this. Oh, I like that. So it is one more game, but I guess.
Oh, he does have less attempts. Yeah. A lot of people have brought that up. I don't care about the game thing. I never cared about the game thing. If like I said, if they were a 9-win team, I'd go for it. And it wouldn't, and I would call him the rushing leader in all-time rushing. I don't care about the game. So, I don't care about the the record that much, though. So I'm probably the wrong guy to ask. For this team at this time, he's too important to worry about that individual stuff. And as simple as that for me.
I think that's fair. I don't think you're wrong on that. Abe says McKee said it was difficult to see over the line. Interesting.
I didn't see that. What? Well, they do have a very big offensive line. Well, if
he's got you wonder if
he's got a difficulty, everybody else is having difficulty because he's
true.
He's 6'6", but a lot of that is experience as well. I've never bought much into the height thing other than it is what it is. And I mean, all quarterbacks have to, offensive linemen have gotten so big, and the Eagles have taken it to a bigger degree than most with Mekhi Becton inside, but they've had a pretty good offense.
Rashid Mixon checks in. He says, "Good morning, fellas. Hey, Zan, I see the Eagles heard what you said. Anybody who noticed who was kicking the ball out of the end zone on kickoffs? They
Oh
did
yeah,
put Jake
Jake.
Elliott
I
back on there.
wrote about it. Yeah, I
They were
mean,
booting him out.
yeah, Braden had a really bad game in Washington. I thought they'd give him one more chance because we asked Nick during the week. We asked Michael Clay, and they intimated it was still going to be Braden, but obviously they went in a different direction.
I never really understood why they went off of him. I guess they thought he was better. I mean, I don't.
Well, the weather. I mean, the reason was because of the weather. The weather was really nice yesterday.
I mean, in general, just going away from Elliott. Like last year, Elliott kicked every.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Well, that's because they think Braden has a stronger leg, but
yeah.
My thought would be they wouldn't go back because they'd give him one more chance because of the weather in Washington. And then to assume it, I think that's what I'm trying to get at. The assumption that, well, if it were 25 degrees yesterday in Philadelphia, would the kickoff spin have been the same with Jake Elliott? No. So, I mean, the weather played into it. I think if they let Braden Mann kick in that weather, he would have been fine. Can't say that 100%. I think the weather was the bigger deal, not the person, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's fair. Appreciate you, Rashid. Kenny checks in, a member for 4 months. Kenny, appreciate it, man. Remind everybody to get your memberships in. We will do Saquon Barkley jersey giveaway tomorrow on After Hours on Birds 365. Kenny says, John, how do we feel about Jalen not playing for 3 weeks? So Kenny might have just checked in on the show. Reminds me of 22, and we leaned on a run game to get to the Super Bowl. Also, what's your thoughts on the news that if Rock can't make WrestleMania, the plans are Cena versus Cody for the WWE Championship? Let's start with the first part of that. I will say 22, Jalen did return for Week 18 versus the Giants going into the playoffs. Then they played the Giants again in the wild card. But Jalen did play that Week 18 game. But, John, your response to Kenny.
Yeah, and he didn't play well in that Week 18
No, he didn't.
Game, but
little rusty, John.
Yeah. Well, that was a serious injury, more serious than what he has now. But, yeah, I'm not saying he's not going to be rusty a little bit, but, I mean, they don't start well to begin with anyway. I think anytime, like, whoever is going to get the number 1 seed, Detroit, Minnesota, is going to be a little bit rusty in the divisional round. It's just part of it, but I'd rather have that. And you get settled into the game. And if you're a good team and you play well, you're going to take care of business on your home field. I'm not saying it's not a thing. I'm saying I'm not playing him against the New York Giants and risking another injury just so he's not rusty for the more meaningful game. It's a cost benefit thing for me, and it's pretty obvious. Don't play your key players. That's why you play hard to get to this position. You hope to be the number 1 seed, but now that you're locked into the number 2 seed, you don't have to play.
It almost feels to me like a little bit of a blessing that you're here, because I'd rather be here than go into Week 18 and have a playoff-like feeling with Lions and Vikings, where it's like the loser of that game. I mean,
I'm not going to go that far, because
I'm not going that far, but I mean, I
think about the winner of that game.
The winner, but there's going to be a loser, and ultimately it's going to be tough sledding for them. But we'll see. It won't be.
The one thing about good teams is, when you're 14-2, you tend to have some confidence. So we'll see how it works out for each of those teams. But that's what you want to play for. You want to be in those spots. And I always want the number 1 seed now more than ever, because there's only one. Back a few years ago, there were 2. And you'd say, oh, well, that's great. 2 people. Once they expanded to 7 teams, there's only 1. And history says it's pretty stinking important to get that first seed. And the Eagles' 2 recent runs to the Super Bowl, they were the number 1 seed in both. So it is very, very meaningful.
Good stuff there, Johnny Mac. One more member, Chad here. Takeem, look at that, John. Takeem member for 30 months. That's one of our longest. I think you're second, Takeem. You're second to Miguel Lara.
Real quick, then, and that's thanks to Keem, John Cena, Cody Rhodes.
Oh yeah,
sure. Yeah, I've heard that same rumor. John's going to retire. He's doing this whole 1-year retirement thing. Yeah. His last WrestleMania, last Royal Rumble, the last, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, he should go out on a biggest stage possible. I agree with that, and he should win. But he will not. I'm not a big Cody guy, for those who don't know.
Yeah, I knew that from your talks with Jody Mack. Wasn't Jody a Cody guy? He liked Cody?
Yeah, Jody's a big AEW guy. He's like one of the last 4, I think. But, yeah.
Takeem said, you giving away that Kelly Green Kango hat, Zander. Need one of them for my imaginary hot Tinder date this weekend at the casino. LOL. No, I'm not. This is my victory green, though. You like it, Takeem? I told you guys last week.
How do you get the green to show up with the green screen? Shouldn't the green not show up?
Well, because I don't have a green screen.
Oh.
I have just a wall. I'm just using virtual background.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I don't actually have it. Like, you have a green screen behind you. Yeah, I don't have a green screen, so the green hat works.
All right.
Oh, Miguel, there he is. Member for 30, man. There you go. So both you guys members for 30 months. Happy Monday, brothers. It's my 28th birthday today. Cheers. Miguel, cheers to you, brother. Thank you, man.
I thought green would get blocked out even with the virtual, but maybe, I guess not. Right.
I'm good. I'm chilling, John. It's working well for me. All right, Kenny says, when are you giving away the white hat? Everybody wants my white. I'm giving away all this stuff, John. There's one white Eagles hat I like that I wanted to keep, and my mistake was showing it to the people because now it's become a theme that they're all waiting for me to give away the white hat. Come on, Kenny. All right, John. Good stuff, man. Final thoughts on the show, and we'll wrap it up here. We're way over time.
Yeah, going to be an interesting week. I don't think it's going to stop until it shows up Sunday and 1:00 and Saquon's not playing. But I think Lane gave it away. I do. So I would be very surprised. 2000's pretty impressive. And
AJ kind of also gave it away too. Did you hear his on the field interview with Mike Garafolo?
I did not.
So AJ, I'll read you the quote real quick. AJ, they asked him, he asked them basically, should the starters play or what's your week 18 plan? He says, rest up, heal up, and get ready to go for the playoffs. So AJ basically said the same.
Well, AJ got hurt in week 18 last year.
Yeah, so he knows.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. But at the time, remember, there was still a chance, and that's what Nick said. If things broke the right way, and there was a chance, they would have played, but they didn't break the right way. So no use tempting fate. Use tempting fate.
Kenny says, you said you'd hope I get it. Well, Kenny, then I hope you do. I will give it away. Don't worry. I'm not keeping it. I don't want any of this shit. I already got too much shit. I'm giving everything away to the people. All right. I appreciate everybody. John, great show today, man. We'll catch up tomorrow for Tuesday edition of Birds 365. Looking forward to it, man.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Catch you next time, everybody.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate, inside the locker room, and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.